And it's an honor to introduce author Tim Casey.
I've known Warren a long time. How do I follow that? I don't have a wife or dry cleaning. So.
As it turns out, I don't have both of those either.
So my name is Tim Casey. I'm a local boy. My family's one of the 100 founding families in the city of Colorado Springs, so I've lived here my entire life. I grew up on what was the original south side of Colorado Springs, which is a neighborhood called East Lakes. The boundaries were best defined by my paper route when I was a boy, which is Airport and Fountain on the north and south, and then East and West are Circle and Union Boulevard. It was a tough neighborhood then, and it's still a tough neighborhood now, and unfortunately I was a very slow, small white kid. And so some of my experiences in the neighborhood were a little rough in those days. At the same time, I'm an author. I'm a lecturer at the University of Colorado here in Colorado Springs. I'm a reformed stand-up comedian. I did that for many years, so I'll try not to do stand-up routine. I am a father, a son, and an alcoholic. And I wanted to share with you guys tonight my story, a little bit of my alcoholism. Many people have alcoholics and addicts in their families, and I'm one of those. And a lot of normal drinkers and normal people don't get us. So I'm hoping to share a little bit of that with you guys tonight. So when I was growing up in the summer of 1969, in the little neighborhood I lived in, I was going from king of the hill as being a 6th grader to going to the bottom of the pile as a 7th grader in a school I didn't know, with people I didn't know. And so that summer of 69, if you think about it, the Vietnam War was in swing. I had an older brother that was about to go to Nam. I had an older sister that had graduated high school already. And so that summer there was an Apollo 10 that grazed the moon but not landed. And the Beatles had already been on Ed Sullivan. So that summer I had ready access. Neither one of my parents drink, but there was alcohol in my home. And that summer, my 2 best friends and I decided that we should try alcohol for the first time. And so we snuck some liquor out of my parents' home and went out in the alley behind their house and drank it. And for me, I don't know that I was an alcoholic at that moment, but what I do know is that men and women drink alcohol for the effect. And man, that effect was magical that night. And I hate to romance it, but it was powerful for me that night. And I'd never had that sensation before. And before my friends got done vomiting, I had already been hit by that warmth, that core warmth that spread to my limbs, and it was magical for me that first drink. I didn't like drink continuously after that, but what it did was it helped with the anxiety, even at the age of 12. It helped with the anxiety of moving from a grade school to a junior high school. And that's when I discovered that coping mechanism of alcohol. Later in my life, then in my teens, back then you could drink at 18 years old in Colorado, and so I engaged in that fully through my high school years. By then, I'd grown to the size that I was. I wasn't the little guy anymore, and I was still slow, and still slow probably in more ways than just speed. But what happened was then I get nailed by severe acne in my teen years, and so my self-image now was damaged by that, and which of course meant that I couldn't get the girls. But what I could do was I could drink and be a class clown. And so that became a skill that I had. You know, I mean, I was lucky enough, I had a nickname. It was Pizza Face. Not the best nickname. But I was cool enough to have a nickname. If they called you by your real name, you weren't cool at all. So at least I had a nickname. And so then I started drinking in my teen years. And immediately I became able to drink more and faster and handle it better than anybody around me. Nobody could out-chug me, you know. And I actually wound up going to prom because I had asked head cheerleader, who'd been dumped by her boyfriend that night, a couple days before prom. And in a drunken stupor, I asked her to the prom, and she accepted. 3 days before the prom, where do you find a tuxedo? At Montgomery Ward's, it was beige. About the only tux in town at the time, you know, so there I go, you know, so with this liquid courage, I almost had forgot that I'd even asked her. And the last thing I wanted to do was have her dumped for a second time right before the prom, so off to the prom we went. Graduated from high school, and at the age of 19, I became a firefighter. And I'm a retired firefighter, paramedic for the city of Colorado Springs after 31 years of service. And so I used the liquor in my teen years once again as a coping mechanism. That's what worked for me. Was I alcoholic at that time? Probably not. There comes a point in our drinking careers that we break over. There's a point where we could have stopped, and we don't. Normal people stop, but alcoholics, we don't. And so I became married at a young age, and my wife at the time was essentially a drinking partner and partying. You know, it was the 80s. So along with that came cocaine and speed and these sort of things, but it was still always alcohol in the background. I could walk away from all those other things, but never from liquor. And so that marriage deteriorated and finally went away. And I had a tremendous broken heart because of this divorce. And for the first time in my life, I fully engaged my alcoholism. I crawled in a bottle for about 2 years solid. I drank. It was all I knew at the time. And woke up in many places I didn't remember going to. And I remember, you know, not even sure if I was in Colorado Springs anymore some days, you know. Didn't recognize where I was at. And then met my second wife, who was a firefighter as well, and we got married. And we were party pals as well, up to the point when she became pregnant with her first child. She quit drinking because she was pregnant. It was the first time she realized I couldn't. It was the first time I realized I couldn't stop drinking. I tried to join her in sobriety with the baby coming, but to no success. And that's when I began the portion of my drinking career where I hit alcohol. Because she was trying to control my alcohol intake. And so I started drinking non-alcoholic beer and blacking out on non-alcoholic beer because I was hiding liquor at this point. My favorite hiding place was the box of Fiber One breakfast cereal. Nobody in my house ate it, so I tried it. And it went undiscovered. Nobody ever found that bottle. And but I would still get to the point of blackouts. She became pregnant with our second child, and I was raging. I remember one time there was a liquor store next to the video store not far from our home, and I'd say we should watch a movie tonight. What I would do is I'd go get a bottle, get a movie, pound the bottle, go home in a blackout, driving drunk. Not proud of that, especially as a firefighter paramedic, not proud of that at all. But I did it. And only by the grace of God did I never get a DUI, or did I never hurt anybody while I was doing it. But 3 days in a row I rented the same damn movie. Snow falling on cedars. I don't know why and to this day, I still have never seen it. I watched it 3 times in a row, beginning to end, but I was in a blackout. I didn't realize it. And at that point, I then was promoted to the rank of paramedic, and I went to Denver to go to paramedic school, Swedish Hospital, second finest paramedic program in the United States, and I went up there. Good for me, I had friends in Denver that owned bars, and I could drink cheap for free. And I was living in Denver away from my wife and my child. And we started that paramedic class with 20 students, and only 7 of us graduated. 13 failed, and I did it drunk. And I don't know how I got through. I became a paramedic for the city of Colorado Springs and riding around on the fire trucks. And now what came was a lot of the horrors that we see as firefighters, and particularly as paramedics, because we're the ones that are physically saving lives with the medications we administer and the advanced techniques that we can use to save lives. And I started to become haunted by nightmares. I would relive incidents that we had gone to, and I would have dreams, nightmares, where I would have my family in a car wreck when I got there instead of who had actually been there. And so I could only drink to get to sleep, which isn't sleeping, it's passing out. And it's coming to, it's not waking up. And it gives that background. My wife had made arrangements to leave me after the birth of our second child. Led to a suicide attempt, which led to about as big a public humiliation you can suffer. I knew everybody on the ambulance when she called 911. I knew everybody on the fire truck. I knew all the doctors in the emergency room when they got there. And here I am with a suicide attempt, which led to me becoming sober for the first time in my life. I had gotten sober. And I wound up being sober for the next 7 years. Here's the thing about us alcoholics. Because I started using alcohol at 12, through my teens and then through the middle of my life, I never developed a set of emotional skills that normal people develop. See, you guys, when you go through your emotional traumas, you learn how to handle it. We don't. So when we sober up, when I sobered up in my late 30s, I had the emotional maturity of about a teenage boy. I had never dealt with a broken heart. I'd never dealt with these emotions. So now I'm sober and I'm overwhelmed by these emotions. Our natural instinct is to drink again because we can't take it. But through Alcoholics Anonymous, we push through that and we learn how to get over it. And I'll share with you the last story after my last bout of drinking. I'm a single dad, had 50-50 custody of my children. I have 2 daughters, 8 and 11, and a 14-year-old son. And I decided to drink once more. And I had my son call their mother to have their mother come pick him up because they shouldn't have been with me. And she picked him up. Well, I went 6 months without seeing my children. I got them back, and I was very nervous when I got my children back because they'd been gone. And I was sober, and I through treatment, and I was doing really well. I got them back. My daughters always had this tradition of crawling up on me when they were ready for bed. 8-year-old on this side, she'd show up with a blanket, crawl up on me, take this arm, put it over herself, and snuggle in and get ready to go to bed. Then the 11-year-old would come over and join the other side and get under the blankets, and I'd be trapped by these 2 little nuclear furnaces. Sweating, you know. And I remember while the children were gone and I got sober, I remember thinking, man, was I drunk the last time that's going to happen? Because all of us parents know there's those last times. Last times they want to crawl into your bed, last time. And I was really scared of that. So I got my children back. Daughters showed up. We had our reunion. And so I'm sitting there one day, and here comes the 8-year-old with her blanket. Hey, Daddy. She crawls up. She's snuggling like a tick, you know, just, man, she's in there. Grabs the arm, puts it over, does that last little heavy sign, crawls in. And the 11-year-old, she shows up. You know, I was sober for that. And that one this day. And if it was the last time, I'm okay with that. Because that one, you know, I got it. And that's one of the rewards of sobriety has been for me. Is that everything I lost through drinking, the good Lord's given back to me through my sobriety. So if that helps you guys understand how us addicts and alcoholics behave, I don't know that it will, but I feel better for having shared my experiences as an alcoholic with you guys. So thanks for coming tonight. Thanks for listening.